week, we got the NFC East. Brother Bren, as always, kick us off. Who do you think is going to go from the bottom, third, second, and first, to the cream of the crop of the NFC East division?
Well,
all right,
here we go. You know who I'm going to say. The Commanders. Yeah, there was no chance they were going to be any higher.
Really?
Yeah, there was no chance. Yeah, I don't know. They're still figuring stuff out. Chase Young, got to figure out his contract situation because of all of his injuries. The whole offense, I don't know. You got Terry McLaurin. That's their only kind of light in the darkness for their offense. Sam Howell, I don't know. We've barely seen him.
We'll find out.
We'll find out, yes. Then we got the New York Giants. That's right. They were second in the division last season, right?
Third.
They were third?
Yeah, I think behind the
Cowboys. Yeah, they all made it. Yeah.
Nonetheless, like 9-8 or some shit like that.
Yeah, they'll probably go somewhere between that. Because I think they slightly got better. But
Really?
they haven't overall improved heavily.
Okay.
Like, they improved what they needed to improve. But nothing, like receiver-wise, who'd they get that was major?
Dude,
That was really their main thing.
Paris Campbell. Show some respect.
Oh.
Agent Zero this year.
Okay.
Darren Waller, no love for Darren Waller.
That's tight end, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Oh, you're talking receiver.
I was just talking receivers.
Right.
Tight end, yes. Love that move. But yeah, Giants, roughly the same in my eyes. Third in the division.
All right. Who you got next?
The Cowboys. They're going to figure out how to lose some games.
Jeez.
You know what they do. They've gotten better though, but I think that Dak Prescott's gonna fuck it up for them. Me personally, yeah.
Okay.
I think they might have to move on.
Same old shit, different year. You're saying?
Yes, we'll see. And lastly, the Eagles. Somehow they just get better. I have nothing else to say. They just get better somehow.
Anyways, I got the Commanders finishing last. Sam Howell.
Okay.
We don't know what this guy's about. Like you said, Scary Terry's their main weapon over there. Other than that, that's really it. Josh Harris did say their original name a couple times in his opening presser, so seems like they still got some things to figure out over there. Third place.
Because the name's coming back.
It was a real tough call for me here.
Was it though?
But I'm going to go Giants.
Okay, so we all agree.
I think they don't have as good of a year as they did last year. Might have been a fluke. I don't know. I like the culture that Brian Daboll is setting there. I like the pieces they're putting in place. I don't know what's the deal with paying Danny Dimes that money. I don't know. But Saquon Barkley is the heart of that offense. And for what it's worth, Danny Dimes has looked pretty impressive this preseason. Some new additions to the offense. Paris Campbell, Darren Waller, a big one. Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver out of Tennessee. They drafted high hopes for him. He runs like a fucking gazelle out there. We shall see. Their defense made some additions too, but nonetheless, got them finishing third in Daboll's blue F-150. Second place, I got them boys, man.
Yeah.
Like Maranto said, boys will be boys. Somehow, some way, they'll find a way to fuck it up. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure which way or what, but that's just what they do, man. That's what they've been doing the past however many years now. They just keep finding ways to fuck it up. I think losing Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator is going to hurt them. Big Mike is calling the plays again, and we know how that story goes in the past. Didn't go so great. Got him one Super Bowl, but I don't think they get it done in Dallas. Dak Prescott maybe throws double-digit picks again. He said he won't, but I think he does. Anyways, first place, got the Philadelphia Bulldogs. Sorry, the Eagles. Hey, man, like you said, somehow, some way, they got better. That young defensive core will be something serious. They will be a problem in the league. They already got the chemistry there. Hey, listen, man. I think their third defensive team could be any starters in this league on any other defensive squad, which is fucking ridiculous because when Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and Jordan Davis come off the field, offense is like, all right, yo, we got some room to work with here. Big dogs are all out of the game. Next thing you know, you got Jalen Carter and fucking Nakobe Dean and them guys coming out, as well as Hassan Reddick, and the list goes on.
And Nolan Smith.
And
someone else. Oh, did you see Miles Jack retired?
Oh, yeah.
After getting re-signed.
Yeah, he said – because originally he was going to retire before he signed there. He said he was going to get into plumbing and everything, but he couldn't deny that contract. But I think he came into the practices and the training camp preseason
Don't think he was ready.
He said, fuck this. I'm going to go clean some shit and some poop pipes at FedEx Field, help the Commanders out a little bit. So, that being said, I mean, the Eagles have new defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, as we know, Shane Steichen, formerly offensive coordinator, head coach of the Colts now, Jonathan Gannon. Pew, pew, shots, explosives, taking his talents over to Arizona, out west. So, that's my only question marks. We'll see where this play calling goes. But Jalen Hurts still going to be a dog. He's still got one of the top offensive lines in the league. One of the best receiving cores in the league as well. So, I can see him going back to the Super Bowl, quite honestly. It's either them or the Niners. And I got a wild...
We have a lot more questions about the Niners than the Eagles.
Oh, yeah, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, with that being said, you heard it here from the Sports Stooges. These are our picks for the NFC East. Let's pet it. I want to say let's head it over and let's pass it over at the same time.
Okay.
So that was it's a head pass. So let's pass it over to our Stats Savant, our numbers guy, Jacob Money Martineau.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Marty. Exciting week this week. We have the NFC East. So let's look at the odds provided by FanDuel. So we have Washington, the big underdogs, at plus 1,300. We have the Giants at plus 700. We have Dallas at plus 175. And we got Philly at minus 115. So what better way to start than start with America's team, Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys, I want to believe in this team. They have a good roster, good defense, above average QB. They got rid of Zeke, and they have Tony Pollard now, a much better running back this year for them. The big thing I don't like about this team is the head coach, Mike McCarthy. They got rid of Kellen Moore, so McCarthy is going to be called the play caller this year for the offense. So let's look at what McCarthy did when he was play calling from Green Bay. So from 2013 to 2018, he called plays. They went 53, 41, and 2. That was with Aaron Rodgers. That is just not a good record. They could have been much better, and I don't think he's a good play caller because he loves to run the ball and not pass the ball later in games. So they outscored opponents in the first quarter by 142 points. Green Bay was very successful in the first quarter. They put a lot of points on the board, and they passed the ball very frequently. Let's look at the second quarter, though. The second quarter, they were outscored by 62 points. In the third quarter, they were outscored by 5 points. So what was the philosophy for Mike McCarthy? They got a big lead by throwing the ball early, and then he just wanted to run the clock out. He just wanted to run the ball, which I absolutely hate. Let's talk about what a quote he said this year in the offseason, too. So talking about Kellen Moore, he said, Kellen wants to light the scoreboard up, but I want to run the ball. I want to run the damn ball so that I can rest my defense. That right there is not going to cut it, running the ball. He needs to be very aggressive with passing, especially because he has Dak. Dak is pretty decent. He's above average QB, and he has weapons. So I do not like that quote at all. McCarthy says he wants to focus on the time of possession, and he wants to do that by running the ball, which is completely wrong. You focus time of possession by being very good, very efficient on early downs and avoiding third downs. That's how you run up time of possession for your team. So I do not like his philosophy of running the ball. I just think that's silly and outdated as well. Now let's talk about their defense. Their defense has been number 1, number 2 the past 2 seasons, and they have a very good defense. But what happens if there's a little variance this year and they go from number 1, number 2 to like number 10, number 11? That might hurt the team a lot too. So that's another point to pay attention to. And the last stat I have is they are 10-5 in one-score games the past 2 years. What happens if they're on the other side of variance that this year coming up and they lose a lot of one-score games? So, although I really want to love Dallas, I just do not like Mike McCarthy, and I'm not sure what's going to happen this year, but hopefully their talent can outweigh bad coaching. So, that's all I have for Dallas, and now we're going to transition into the Washington Commanders, or whatever their team name is. I don't know what they're trying to change it to, but they just keep on changing it. So we're going to talk about Ron Rivera. So he's been coach for 3 years. His records is 7-9 the one year, 7-9 the other year, 8-1 the other year. So they have not had a winning record under Rivera, and we're going to talk about why. It's because they're quarterbacks. I'm going to give you a list of all the quarterbacks they've had. Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, Alex Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Taylor Heineke, Garrett Gilbert, Carson Wentz, and now it's going to be Sam Howell. So all those quarterbacks, he's had 3 years but has not been able to find a guy, and they have not been able to go after a guy. I'm going to give you a quote he had on Lamar Jackson during when Lamar Jackson was holding out and wanted a new deal from the Ravens and stuff in free agency. He said, "We never looked into it. High money QB wasn't for them." I don't understand. He's okay with having Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz as a quarterback, Alex Smith too, but doesn't want to go after Lamar Jackson. That doesn't make sense to me, but that's whatever. So things Washington needs to improve this year to actually be better. So last year they were terrible, absolutely terrible on early downs, okay? They ranked 31st in the NFL on yards per play and 30th on points per drive. They were absolutely horrible on early downs, and their O-line needs to improve big time too. Their O-line was number 26 in pressure rate and 27 in pass block win rate. So their O-line was horrible. Absolutely not good for them. They need to improve that. They need to also improve early down efficiencies. I don't know how they're going to do that with Sam Howell. I mean, he's a fifth-round quarterback. I'm not saying he's not great, but I don't think he's elite yet. Haven't seen much of him, so this might be the last year for Ron Rivera, because if they don't have a winning season, I can see them kicking him out and starting over from scratch, and hopefully they draft an early QB and try to build a team around him. I also want to note that their schedule is much difficult this year than it was last year, so I am not high on the Commanders this year as well. The next team now, we're going to talk about the Giants. So we talked about coaching with Dallas and Washington not being great. The Giants is the complete opposite, okay? They have Daboll. I think he's an incredible coach, came from the Bills, love the Bills. But we're going to talk about the Giants now. So not including last year, for the last 5 seasons, the Giants did not have a winning record anytime throughout the season for the past 5 years, not including last year. That's insane right there. So they started off 0-1 and just never were able to go above 500. We're going to talk about what happened with the Giants last year. So the Giants, they went from 31st in 21 to number 6 in third down avoidance. Third down avoidance is very popular stat. Teams that win the Super Bowl, teams that make the playoffs very far, are very good in third down avoidance, so I really like that stat. They went from number 32 to number 7 in red zone conversion rate. So they were much better in the red zone this year, and that had to deal with a lot with coaching, okay? Daniel Jones now. He went dead last in red zone completion rate at 37% to number 7 out of 47 QBs last year to 70%. So he went from 37% to 70%. That had to deal with a lot of coaching right there, and I really respect Daboll for that. But now we're going to talk about Daniel Jones. So they made the playoffs last year. Everyone thinks Daniel Jones was really good, an elite quarterback, but I kind of have a different view on this. So he only threw 15 TDs last year. That would tie with Marcus Mariota as well. He averaged 6.8 yards per attempt, which would rank number 30th in the league right there. He was 19 in expected points added per attempt at 0.00, and he was number 22 in success rate. Outside of the red zone, Daniel Jones was not a good QB. Very good in the red zone last year, but outside of it, not very good. And here's a big one too. On third and fourth downs, he ranked number 42 of 47 on yards per attempt, and he also had a 56% percentage completion rate as well. That would rank 39th in the NFL. Not very good on third and fourth downs. And then he was also 32nd in first down conversion rate on third and fourth downs. So he struggled very badly late in downs. So with that, he didn't have much receivers last year. The receivers were very bad. Really no talent. This year, it's a little different. I mean, they got Darren Waller. Hopefully, he can stay healthy for him. But outside of him, I'm not too high on any of these receivers at all. They're also projected to play the number one toughest schedule of overall defenses and the number one toughest schedule of pass defenses. They also have a -9 rest disadvantage. So I don't know how far Daboll can really carry this team. Daniel Jones, I'm not high on. I'm expecting a little regression. I don't expect them to make the playoffs this year, and I'm not too high on the Giants at all. So with that, we're going to hit the last team, the Eagles. So the Eagles last year were very dominant. They scored 296 points in the first quarter. That would rank number 7th of all time in the NFL. They were a very good fourth quarter, first half team right there. They led at halftime by a margin of 121 points. So they would get big leads, and then the second half they would just kind of run the ball, just coast a little. This year I expect much difference because last year they had a very easy schedule. This year is a much harder schedule. So I expect the Eagles to be in games more, and I expect them to pass the ball a lot more too. So it's going to look pretty good for the receivers and the tight end Dallas Goedert as well. But now let's talk about Hurts. Hurts made it to the Super Bowl last year. Everyone thinks he was super good. But we're going to talk about areas where he can improve. So the first one is passing under pressure. So when he was pressured, he ranked -0.49 in EPA, which is 35th in the NFL, versus when he wasn't under pressure. When he wasn't under pressure, it was 0.24 EPA, which would rank number 11th right there. So he was much better not dealing with pressure than dealing with pressure. The second thing he can improve on is passing outside of the pocket versus passing inside the pocket. So when he passed outside of the pocket, he was -0.41 EPA. That would rank 37th in the NFL. When he was inside the pocket now, he had a 0.13 EPA, which would rank number 7th in the NFL. So he went from 37 to 7 outside versus in. So that's another area he needs to improve as well. And then the last area is passing versus man versus zone. So when he played zone defense, he averaged -0.012 EPA. That would rank number 27th in the NFL right there. So he struggled against zone. Versus when he played man, he would hit 0.18 EPA, which would go to number 7th. So for Hurts, for them to really improve and step up the offense, he needs to be able to handle pressure and pass under pressure. He needs to be able to throw outside of the pocket, and then he needs to be much better against zone. So those are the 3 recaps right there. When he did play zone, when they faced zone defense, he had an 8.4% sack rate. When he played man, it was at 3.1. So that shows he was under pressure a lot more when playing zone and just gave a lot of sacks up. Third down conversion rate, he was 40% versus zone. Versus man, he was 54%. So he's much better under man. So that's something I want to see this offense improve on. Drop new schemes. They need to really address that zone defense because they struggled very badly against it. The bad news, though, is they played a lot of teams last year that only played man. This year, I think they're going to face a lot more teams playing zone, so the Eagles really need to step up this year in that aspect. And then the last stat I have is they are -6 in rest disadvantage this year, and that would be the 6th worst in the NFL, so that's not a good stat right there for them to have. But overall, I do like this Eagles team. I do think they're very talented. I think they have decent coaching on the team, and I think they can go pretty far. They're in the NFC, so there's not much talent there, so I would not be surprised if they're in the Super Bowl. But to end this segment, we're going to do projected standings. And this is going to be a little boring because I'm not doing anything exciting. So coming in last is Washington. I'm not a big fan of Ron Rivera. They don't really have a great quarterback. I mean, they have talented receivers and stuff. Their O-line really needs to improve. I'm not expecting too much out of them this year. Third place, we have the Giants. Can Daniel Jones be much better this year? I mean, people thought he was really good last year, and he was good for fantasy and stuff, but overall, passing outside the red zone was just not good. You can't blame his receivers saying he didn't have much talent, and there's more talent this year. They have Daboll, and he might be able to drop some schemes and make Daniel Jones much better than he actually is, but I'm not putting too much into that. I think Daniel Jones really needs to step up this season. Number 2, we have Dallas. So Dallas, I could see definitely taking this division if Mike McCarthy wasn't the coach and they still had Kellen Moore. That defense is elite. Above passing offense there with Dak and all the receivers and stuff. It's just Mike McCarthy. I'm just not a big fan of. I hate how he loves to run the ball. This is a pass-first league. You need to be able to throw the ball and put up a lot of points. So I just don't like him that much. And then last place we have Philly. Jalen Hurts really needs to improve in the three aspects we mentioned before. I think they have a good defense. They have great talent receivers out there as well. I like the Eagles. I think minus 115 isn't a bad price. I don't think there's too much talent with these other teams outside of Dallas, and Dallas has Mike McCarthy, so I don't really like that. But that's all I have for this week's segment. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, stay on the grind and keep on working.